Hi, and welcome to the Reiki from the Farm podcast, brought to you by me, Pam Allen-LeBlanc from Hidden Brook Farm. I am a scientist, a businesswoman, and a licensed Reiki master teacher with the International Center for Reiki Training. Each week in this podcast, you'll be entertained as you learn about a wide variety of relevant Reiki topics, helping you become a more knowledgeable and effective Reiki practitioner. We caution you, though, this podcast may also dramatically improve your life, and we are so happy that you're here. Welcome to this week's podcast, where I'm speaking with my friend and fellow Reiki master, Michele Denis. Michele has been one of the co-creators of the Wisdom of Reiki conference, and she had such wonderful and juicy tidbits to share when we were at Omega together just a few short weeks ago that I really wanted her to have an opportunity to talk with all of you about something called Marma points, and also about her end of life work and any other thing that crops up as we're talking. So welcome, Michele. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Pam. It's very delightful to be here, and I'm a little nervous.
Oh gosh, that's so sweet. I think that if it's any consolation, when I first started doing this, I was really nervous too. And what happened is, energetically, I was told to do this weekly. And I thought, weekly? Oh my gosh, how am I going to do weekly? But I really believe one of the reasons for doing it weekly is that if I did every 2 weeks, I would still work really hard to make sure it was curated and perfect. But by doing it weekly, I had to get really used to doing it and not always being totally prepared.
Yeah, no,
So
that makes sense. Yeah, it's a practice, right?
it definitely is. Before we get into it, I just want to let people know that I have Healthcare Reiki coming up July 11th and 12th here at the farm. Now, for this class, Tracy Sullivan is traveling up from Connecticut. We will be offering it in person and online, and we will be together. At this point, we don't have any other Healthcare Reiki classes booked or planned, but it would be a really great one to join us for if you feel guided to. Healthcare Reiki has just changed my life, and it seems to be changing the life of a lot of people who work with it, just releasing anxiety, causing us to become our healthiest selves. So, really look forward to sharing that with you. Then in August, starting August 8th to 14th in Campobello on that little island off the coast of Maine, I have several classes, 3 weeks worth actually. And on the Monday, in between the level 1 and 2 and master class each time, I've got you going whale watching if you want. We're going to go to tea with Eleanor Roosevelt. We're going to visit the Roosevelt cottages and estate, and also just go for a hike on the beautiful island, have dinner together. It's a gorgeous island in the middle of the Bay of Fundy with the highest tides in the world. And it is off the coast of Maine. It probably should have been an American island, but funny story, the guy who was the cartographer at the time was terribly seasick. And rather than go out and draw the line, he said, give it to Canada because he wasn't feeling well. So would love to have you join us for Reiki 1 and 2 and Masters, August 8th to 14th, either one or both of those, or Animal Reiki 1 and 2 and Masters, August 15th to 20th, or Animal Communication for Reiki practitioners, 1 and 2, professional practitioner and master teacher, August 22nd to the 27th. In September, I'm heading to Hong Kong to teach Animal Reiki 1 and 2 and Masters, as well as Healthcare Reiki. And in October, I'll be back at the farm with Reiki, Animal Reiki, and Animal Communication. And if any of those speak to you, I would love to see you in class. Michele, do you have anything coming up that you'd like to let people know about?
Nope, I
You,
don't.
you just said you're cutting back a little bit as we
I
were
am
talking
cutting back
about.
a little bit. I'm emptying out and just doing some planning for my own personal growth or excitement. Yeah, right now that's my focus is this trip that we have, my husband and I have coming up.
Can you tell us a little bit about that trip? Because that sounds fascinating.
Years ago, I heard about this thing called the Sword of St. Michael, and I was named after that. So I just became fascinated by these shrines and monasteries that were consecrated to Michael. Some of them like 1,000 years apart in being built, but they all are on a ley line starting in Western Ireland, ending in Israel. If you go sort of St. Michael, you'll see the map of them. We won't do the entire thing right now for obvious reasons. We're not going to go to Israel,
Yeah.
but we are hoping to do the first few of them. And it's a big trip. It's a big trip for the two of us, but we're very excited and I hope we can pull it off.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I had to pull it up as I was listening to you. It is a exactly straight line.
It is a straight line. And the one in France, Mont Saint-Michel, is equidistant. The one in France and the two in Italy, and I believe the one in Rhodes, they are all equidistant. And they were built hundreds of years apart from each other.
Apart.
And how this even happened is divine, as far as I'm concerned. And I love being in that kind of energy of mystical energy of mystery and how people get inspired by something to create something like that.
Something big is going to happen, I think, on that. That sounds really important and interesting and so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm not having any classes planned at this time.
that's perfectly fair. I hope you enjoy it. And at the same time as you're there, I think I will be in Japan and
That's right.
plan to go on to after I'm teaching in Hong Kong, my husband and I will go to Japan and visit Mount Kurama and Yasui's birthplace and
Yeah.
just visit around Kyoto and Osaka
Yeah.
in Japan. I'm really looking forward to that.
Love to do that too someday. That would be
It's funny, I wasn't really called to do that until now. And but it was if I'm going to be in Hong
yes.
Kong, that seems like the time to go and visit there. I'm just going to invite everybody to go ahead and bring their hands into Gasho and just activate your Reiki energy today. And even though you probably don't know what your Marma points are yet, just allowing the Reiki energy to flow through to your Marma points and just helping us to open ourselves to just that beautiful flow of Reiki energy that we are so blessed to be able to turn on and access whenever we need it. And if there's anything that needs to be cleansed or cleared from your energetic field at this time, just release it with love. Allow the energy to take care of you for you. And if there are any cords and connectors to any energies that are not yours or that are not of you, we release those as well. We take a moment to say thank you to each other, to Michele, to the Reiki energy, and to the teachers that have come before us and the descendants who will come after us. We are so blessed to be of this lineage of light bringers, creating wellness on the earth today. Aho and namaste. Thank you. So I always find that grounds me. I get so excited talking to my guests about Reiki. And I also find that for the listeners, it just helps us pull the parts of the conversation that and hear the parts of the conversation that are very pertinent to us. And because Reiki and our words in these teachings always meet people where they are at that time. So, Michele, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. You talked to us at the Reiki conference about Marma points, which I have to admit are something that I knew nothing about and hadn't heard of. Why do you First of all, how did it come about that you started working with Marma points, and how do you find that they impact your Reiki?
First one, I'd like to just add to what you said about the beginning. When we do an invocation like that, we create a coherence, right?
Mm,
That was absolutely beautiful, Pam. And I can feel everybody who's either watching this live or who will watch this afterwards, that we are all part of this incredible coherence that's coming together. And this work is so important to create that field, to strengthen that field. And so moving forward, we can just take that energy out. I just love that. Thank you. That was great.
oh, thank you.
So Marma points, they came to me intuitively before I knew anything about them.
Ah,
And I didn't, yeah, I didn't know about them at all. But I did know when I was practicing on my clients, and I'll just use my arm as an example, that I found that as I was working on people, that I would just run my hand gently over their, when I was looking for the boys in or scanning, and I would just notice that there was always these little depressions where tissues meet. And I would just instinctively press, just very lightly just press. And then I would put my hand on those places. And I found that the Reiki seemed to flow stronger. And for my clients, their experience was that the Reiki was stronger. So
okay.
it was, I did this for years. There's a point here, and I didn't know that, but I'd take people's hands and I would just touch that.
For
And so,
people listening, she was holding her
oh, I'm
sort of
sorry.
upper arm before, and now
Yeah,
you're
and now
holding
it's
your
just the
wrist.
wrist, just the base of the wrist and front and back. Yeah, so I just started playing with the body. I think part of it is that I was first trained before Reiki, I was trained in massage therapy. So I like working with the body. So I like touching the body. And it just found that there were these little places on the body that just seemed to instinctively run the energy stronger. So that I did for many years. And then two things happened at the same time. One was that I was at Omega and I found a funny little book. I probably should stop calling it a funny little book. I found a precious little book. And I think it was by an East Indian Reiki teacher about Master Navarro, I believe was his name. And this man, and this book was written probably, I don't know when, I don't even remember when, and I can't even find it anymore. It's almost like it appeared and it's disappeared. But that this man was saying, this teacher was saying that the secret of Reiki lies in the Marma points. And I thought, Marma points, what is that? And then I went to a Vedic textbook and Ayurvedic, and I found that the Marma points were all these points that I was just depressing naturally.
Okay.
So that was the aha moment for me. And I just started diving deeper and deeper into that to understand more. And then as I took my training as a yoga therapist, Marma points come up again and again. So let me just tell you what Marma points are. And bear in mind that I'm not an Ayurvedic Marma point therapist. Big disclaimer, I just knowing where they are and depressing them, and I let my intuition usually guide me. But interestingly, they are junctures between different types of tissues. So if you think of a like where two muscles meet and then there's a ligament and how the muscles, and what I'm doing is I'm making a depression with my hands. I have two long muscles and then it would depress and there'd be either a little overlap or sometimes there's a ligament. That joint, that meeting of two tissues is where a marma point is.
Okay.
Okay. So if you were to take your hand, and later we'll do a little meditation, you would just run your hand down your arm, you would feel certainly where the elbows are. Like there's marma points all around the elbows because that is tissues meeting together. Down your upper arm, there's one midpoint. And if you were to run your hand down that, you would feel that. And that one is for vitality. So if you were to look at a drawing of marma points, there's many, and they correlate to the nadi points, which are something very similar if you're doing Chinese acupuncture. That's probably the best way to think about it, is that they're like acupuncture points. So they're like gateways that once ignited or opened, they are a bridge between the subtle world, the energetic world, and the physical world. Okay. So with acupuncture points, it's a very exact science. It's a needle point. What's the beauty of marma points is that it's more of an area.
Mm,
So the smallest marma point would be just one finger dimension width. The largest can be all your four fingers. So you can't really make a mistake. Acupuncture, you have to be exact. Marma points, you don't exactly have to be exact. You have to know the general region to do it. So I just started incorporating it into more and more into my Reiki practice. And then I started comparing notes. and I looked at Usui's manual, the handbook of Mikhail Usui, and I looked at his hand positions for his head. And all of the hand positions are over Marma points.
Of course they are.
Of course they are. This is the thing, is that all of these systems there's connections between all of these systems, right? So the biggest Marma points that we all know about are the chakras. So those are Marma points.
Okay.
And while they tend to be more in the energetic, the etheric body, there is a placement on the body where if you were to touch where each of these areas were, you would help to open up again that channel between the two of them. But the one that excites me the most, and I think the first time I presented this at Omega was probably about maybe this second or third year of the Reiki conference. I can't remember now exactly. But it was while I was doing the presentation that the light bulb went out, just like boom, in my head as I was presenting it, is that when we bring our hands in Gaso Mudra, right? We're in Gasho, and we press our fingertips together. What we're doing is we're opening up the Marma points in our fingertips.
Oh
So
my
we
goodness.
are, I know, eh? Isn't that incredible? It's
Yeah.
just so cool. So we do that, we prepare ourselves, and what we're doing is we're connecting to the subtle realm. We're asking the Reiki to come through into the physical, and we're opening up the gateway. And then when we put our symbols in our palm of our hands and we tap them, that is the Marma point in the hands. It's so cool. It's just so cool, right? And then when we take our knuckles of our thumb and we touch our third eye and ask to be guided with Reiki, we're touching the Marma point in our third eye. We're igniting our intuition. And then if we drop it down to our heart to connect to our heart with our, again, our thumb, we're doing the heart center Marma point.
Oh wow.
So I just think these type of connections are, it's like the sort of saying, Michael, they're so cool. How did this, it's just so beautiful how all these things come together. So I just ended up, I always work like that. And when I was actively teaching with my students, I would talk to them about Marma points and obviously more just some basic ones, but to get them used to the idea that there are energetic channels that we can use, that we can open up. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It's fantastic. And I love when I see overlap between systems.
Yes.
And I feel that quite often we're all working toward the same thing. And quite often, when there are different modalities, different systems, it's just different language to describe very similar things. And I don't know, I just love to see that overlap and I love to see the happy coincidences. To me,
Yeah.
the coincidences are a sign that something really interesting or cool
Yeah.
is happening. And so you really noticed that the energy would flow stronger when you were
Yes.
just lightly pressing the Marma points. And when we were at Omega, you gave us a diagram and you had us just lightly touch the Marma points and then run
Yes.
Reiki. And it was quite lovely, both giving and
Yes.
receiving of that.
Yeah.
And if there were just a few Marma points that in our self sessions that you would want people to know about, what are they and what do you find that they do?
I think for me, the primary one would be in Gasha Mudra, when you bring
Okay.
your hands together in palm position. Because if you're giving yourself a safe self-treatment or giving it to somebody else, you're opening up the gateway. And this is not to say, of course, that Reiki doesn't happen if you don't do this. It does. My own personal experience, and from those who engage with this as well, we just all find that we have a little more intimate connection with it. We feel it a little stronger. It it's also very grounding. So I don't want to in any way imply that it doesn't work without it. It does, of course it does. But
Hmm.
there's just this je ne sais quoi avec it, right?
Like an
So
amplification or
yeah,
something.
like an amplification. And I'll tell you this. So the fingertips, for
Mhm.
sure. And I love touching my third eye because there I'm asking the Reiki to guide me. And that just opens it up. And again, if you're doing self-treatment, that's really beautiful. And the one in the heart. The other one that I would recommend is, and I apologize, I'm not going to go over all the names with them. You can look them up. It's not necessary to know it's good practice. I like being a student and learning. It's good practice to know the names, but trying to pronounce the Ayurvedic names.
Could be
But
tricky.
I encourage people, as Brett would always say, don't be sloppy. Do your research. There is a big marma in the sole of your foot. And so when you think of sometimes when we, in Karuna Reiki, when we put symbols in the sole of the foot, and we tap the foot, wow, that one is immediately grounding for me. So if I'm feeling like I need to get grounded and I tap the sole of my foot. Also in between, so in
Still
between
holding her foot up. She's definitely still doing yoga, guys. My
in
foot doesn't go
between
that
all
high.
the in between all the toes, those are
Yeah.
marker points too. So you can just play where the joints are,
Yeah,
and then
that's
you can just
interesting.
yeah, and then you can just give yourself Reiki, and that's really grounding,
And
right?
so you just lightly press
Very lightly,
and
and
then
take
just
your hand off.
put your Reiki and then put your Reiki hand on.
If you were to
Yeah.
go for a Marma massage by an Ayurvedic practitioner, that's a whole other thing where they will use the Marma points and they will massage them in particular directions and often using oils to stimulate things. We don't need to do that with Reiki. We just need to open up the channel. So think of it, Reiki is the river perhaps, and then there might be a dam and or like a gate, and the gate opens and the water flows through.
Okay.
Right. And it also creates, helps the container. So it seems to me that for me, I can direct the Reiki a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the other one that I love, and this is the one that I get the most comments from my clients on, is the one down the thigh. So if you
Mm.
were to take your hand starting at the top of your thigh, and please remember that this is subtle energy we're talking about. So the lightest of touch is where you're really going to feel this. Just being very curious and just drawing your fingertips down the front of your thigh, and about midway, you'll see that there's a little indentation.
Hmm.
So this is the one, if I would gently press that. So I might often, I'm backing up for a second. I might often start by just giving Reiki, and then I'll go back and I'll depress that spot, then put my hands on it, and people feel it's like on a roller coaster. Suddenly they're like, whoosh. So that's a
Wow.
really good one. A really good one to get the flow of the energy going is that middle one. I like doing that on myself too. And then the other one I talked about at the conference is if you were to take your knee, so I
Mhm.
don't know if you can see my knee, but what I'm doing is I'm bending my knee up towards my chest and I'm creating a cup with my hand. And I'm
Mhm.
putting that cup over the knee. And there's these points around the knee called the Janu points. And you just twist your hand around and feel it, dig into it, and you'll see that all these little indicate indentations are all Marma points. So that
Um,
helps to also start working on the knee. And if you were to take your other hand on the back of your knee and you hold that top of your knee with a cup,
mhm.
whoa, that's a really good place for energy that gets stuck because all the meridians go down the back of the knee. So if we have stuck chi, stuck prana, stuck ki, it's the back of the knee. So you really want to work with that.
I have had issues with my knees since I was a teenager.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I think this is for me,
Yeah.
Michelle. Mm.
Yeah. And it's probably actually, now that I say it, it's probably easier to feel if your knee isn't bent. If your leg is straight,
Okay.
then you might feel those little pockets on the kneecap a little bit easier. And then put your hand on the back of the knee. Press the back of the knee because there's one big marma point back there. So press the back of the knee and then just run the Reiki through there. It's hard for me to do this and keep talking because I go into this zone.
That is fair. That is fair.
Yeah.
I am definitely, and I'm feeling a little bit of kind of some painful spots behind my knee, which is telling me that, and that's maybe where it's perhaps this stuck energy around my knees that people always ask me. I've said, yeah, I've had problematic knees since I was a teenager. And they say, do you do Reiki on your knees? No. On everything
Honestly,
else, but not my knees.
honestly, Pam, your knees are the back of your knees is almost the most important thing because just think of the
Okay.
energy coming down, right? So the energy coming down, and if it gets stuck at the knees, I don't know how many, if you've had this experience working on people, but you start working down the front of their legs, and then it just feels cold like ice from their knee down to their foot, and their foot you can tell the foot is they're not grounded. There's just no energy going down to the foot.
And I've noticed a lot of people, when you were talking about the bottom of the foot, that mudra point, I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? Because I noticed that a lot of people go around, especially people that are tapped into the energy, and our energy kind of starts about our knees. And it should be, and
Right.
I've actually watched Reiki pull it in and button it to the
Mhm.
bottoms of their feet. It reminds me of that cartoon of Peter Pan where she sews
Yes.
his shadow onto him. It's like
Yes.
buttoning the energy in to the,
Yeah.
especially with Karuna Reiki.
I know. I love that with Karuna. That's my favorite.
Mm.
And I think that is my experience with people who love energy, and I'm an energy junkie. It's the realm I like to live in, but we have to be in our bodies. Anyways, that's what moved me into becoming a yoga teacher was because I was always outside of my
There, out
body.
there. A lot of people are.
And we need to ground that energy. In order for it to really start working in the planet into this dimension, we need to be in this earth plane. And so grounding the foot, getting that energy to run down all the way through is really important. And especially when a lot of us probably right now want to flee this planet or we want to get off of it. But we really have to be here as anchors. We have to be points of light, and that light has to be grounded all the way down to the center of the earth.
That is so true. In these chaotic times, we're needed more than ever. And
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that thought. You've got me curious. I'm thinking about where are the Marma points on my horses and
Oh,
on
for
my dog.
sure. For
So I'm going
sure.
to have to look that up now.
Yeah, and what a fun exploration that will be, right? It'll be
Mm.
so cool to see if they notice. Oh my God, you have to let me know
I
if they
will.
notice.
I will. I am gonna absolutely go and give this a try.
I would encourage those of you who are listening to just Google Marma points and you'll get a image of a person and you'll see just how many, there's like hundreds there are all over the body. So it's fun. It's a playful place to play. Really, it is.
I
I like
I
it.
really like it. Seriously, I since you've mentioned it, I've been just lightly pressing around my knee and I'm like, "Ooh, there's a lot of sore points there." So there's definitely some stuck energy there. Thank you for that. That could make all the difference. I will not need a knee replacement.
No, no, if you do, but do some work first.
I'm gonna do the work. Definitely. Do you have a favorite Marma point?
I think the one on the thighs
That one. Yeah.
is the one I really love, just because I had an injury there myself, and where the injury was almost exactly on the Marmor point. So I've got a real major dent there. So maybe that's why. But I like the one on the thighs, and for me, that's the one that's the most grounding, even though the foot feels good. But I know when I start spinning out that if I open up that Marmor point and just give myself Reiki there,
It pulls you
that's
back in.
pulls me right back in. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. And is there anything else you want to mention about Marma points before we move on to your work with end of life?
The gift for me in this is that I allowed myself to be curious when it first started happening. I didn't question what I was doing, or I didn't say, oh my God, this doesn't feel like this is outside of how I was taught how to do hand treatments. I just allowed myself to respond intuitively to a body and the first one I started playing on, they were open and receptive. And so I just allowed it to go. So I think if there's something that you find interesting or exciting or curious about, that you should explore it. That we don't, Reiki is a living thing, and we don't want to keep it in a container that it's outgrows. So I just encourage everybody to, if something tweaks them, look into it, try to explore it. And as far as Marma points go, I have fun with it. Try it and see if it makes a difference for you. And even if it's just one or two of them, and see what your clients say. I think that's all I really, really want to say about it. But I am grateful for having found it in my practice and in my life.
Yeah, I think there will be people listening that it will really resonate with Michelle. And speaking of, you mentioned that Marma points is Ayurvedic, but that it correlates with Chinese medicine. And do you notice that many different modalities they do talk about
I do.
similar things with different language. And I love that. I think that it's important that it exists because it might make sense to you from one place or in one genre where it wouldn't necessarily make sense in others.
That's right. I know for my yoga students who don't know Reiki, that was an interesting way for them to connect with Reiki.
Oh, cool.
Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's, oh, okay, yeah, I see. I'm feeling
There's a
something
crossover with
crossover,
Ayurveda.
right? And
Mhm.
I think we're going to see more and more of that in the future, that we're entering into a time of really interesting exploration where the subtle realm and the subtle realm is going to reveal itself to us more and more. The earth has Marma points.
What?
Of
Wait a
course,
minute.
the earth is a living thing, so the earth has
Of
Marma
course.
points. Right? It's
Gosh.
just like when this is just one little aside, but we had a forest behind us and when we bought our place, and several years into it, the forest was clear cut. And
Mm.
I was in the cabin. It's a little log cabin. I was in the cabin. I heard every tree that came down. The cabin shook with every tree that came down. I witnessed it over 4 months as the caterpillar machines got closer and closer to the edge of our property, took down all the trees. It was devastating. And then what happened to me afterwards is that I would start, every time I was meditating, I would see golden filaments like underground, reaching out to everything, spreading and reaching, and just it was like electricity under the ground, spreading all over the place until it reached me, and I was part of this electricity that was spreading. And then all of a sudden, not wasn't all of a sudden, but over time, I started seeing other things in the meditation where sprouts of life were coming up, and I realized that what I was seeing was mycelium, that the
Mhm.
underneath the mycelium was trying to repair itself, was trying to regrow. And that's when I understood that the mycelium of the earth is like our fascia in our body.
Right.
And our fascia is the electrical system. It's where all the subtle realm really connects to us, and how, that's what they believe now, that is what carries the acupuncture points, what the Marma points are. It's this network that we have, the same as the earth. So when I made the connection of the mycelium being the earth's fascia, it was, it was one of those moments where I was talking to a yoga student of mine about it, and it just came out. I had never thought about it before. It just came out, and an energy pushed me across the room. It was so powerful. It was just like, that's it. So the more that we start appreciating the earth as living in the way we're living and that we're part of it, but not like in The Last of Us where we turn into mushrooms, not like that. Okay. So anyway,
It's funny, mycelium and being the fascia of the earth has come up in healthcare Reiki as well. And yeah,
fantastic. See, we're
mycelium,
all we're all
mhm.
coming to these things at the same time.
Yeah, and
It's
it's
all
come
of
up
these
as very,
revelations.
very important, mycelium
Yeah.
in the interconnected. And it even talked about it like similar to the internet. The mycelium
That's
is
right.
a way to
Absolutely.
communicate with the entire planet and all of the plants and animals on the planet. And
Isn't it cool?
it is. It
It's
really is.
very cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And speaking of, by the way, it was a clear cut near me that I was walking through, and just it was devastating. It had been the most beautiful forest, and what was left behind was just
World War I looked like a World War I battlefield for years back here.
it looked terrible. And that was when I heard the message that I was to run for the Green Party.
Mm.
The next provincial election was as I was horseback riding with some students through that.
Mm.
The students were mostly young people and they were really visibly upset. And that's when I very clearly heard that I was to run for the Green Party and
Wow.
the
Wow.
the there was an election going on, a snap election going on right then, and I went, "Oh no, am I supposed to run right now?" And I heard no, you're supposed to run in 4 years' time. So it gave me a little bit of time to get used to the idea.
Wow. Wow. I understand the power of that. It changed me.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. It's really hard to look at that devastation of these incredible living beings, these trees that bring us oxygen that allow us to breathe and be here on the planet. And it is difficult to experience actually. So it's and we were talking about as we're talking about end of life for the trees. Another thing that showed up, although you didn't speak about it at Omega, and so I wanted to touch on it in our podcast together, is that people were very interested in your end of life work.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and how Reiki led you to end of life work and what it's all about?
It wasn't Reiki that led me to it. It was my mother's death.
Okay.
My mom passed away when I was 29, and
Mm.
she wanted to die at home. And so I took a leave of absence and cared for her. It was a life-changing moment for me,
Mhm.
for all kinds of reasons, but to the moment when she died, to see the animating force leave the body and then to see what was left, I was forever changed in that moment. And I left the life that I had been living at that time and started, I don't know, I guess I started searching. And from that is I finally came to Reiki.
Okay.
So that's how it happened. And then because of that experience, I seemed to be in positions where, and because of the Reiki, where people would be having loved ones die and they would want me in the hospital with them, whether it was for the person who was actually crossing over or whether it was for the family. What
Mhm.
I provided was a steady presence. And I never went looking for it. I never asked for it. It just seems to be something that I do, is to help people or be with people who are in that very vulnerable stage at the end of their life. It helps the family, but brings a certain level of dignity, was the thing that I realized. And I remember one woman said to me that not everybody can do that kind of work. In some cases, it required primary care just because I was the only one around and the person who was dying needed that primary care. And somehow I can do that. And I do feel for me that that is the gift that Reiki has given me in being able to have cultivated a level of presence and calm and spaciousness, and to be in a place like one of the women who I worked with who was dying. I always said to her that I was very concerned about my ego and that want to become, I didn't want to, I didn't necessarily like talking at places or putting myself out there because I didn't want to jump into my ego or I was scared. And she just looked at me and she says, when you're doing Reiki, your ego is never in it. And I started to see that. And that was really true, is that when I'm in that very sacred place with a person, I am really just presence. And that is from having cultivated 30 years of Reiki.
Wow. That's, and I think Reiki would probably support you in the work
Yes,
as well, not just
yes,
support the people around you, but support
yes,
you as well.
absolutely. That's what it does, right? Is that it in that place, I can move my ego aside. I can put my personality aside. I can put my triggers, my judgments, my all of that aside. And I can just be an empty vessel and be there for that person. And one of the last woman that I worked with, I was with her for 6 months. She was dying of stage 4 breast cancer that she had elected not to have any kind of treatment for. I don't exactly know what really led her to that, but it was a remarkable experience because, and I had to tell her that I was in her case, that's probably not the choice I would make. And I don't know, but I do know that's probably not the choice I would make. But that didn't matter because what mattered was her choice. And this was her
Mhm.
journey. And I'm older, and maybe when I was younger, I might not have been able to do it with the ease that I was able to do it now. But it it is something that being able to put aside yourself and showing up for whatever that person needs is what really matters in the dying experience. So it's not just so much the moment of death, although sometimes I'm there just for the last few days in hospice. But in this case, more often than not, it seems that I'm journeying with people as they prepare to die. And what I did want to share about this last experience was that one of the things that I did with her was holy fire meditations. I love them. I love doing them. And
Mm.
the the last one, her we had been told, her doctors had thought that she had still a couple months left to live. I knew she didn't because I've seen enough that I knew she was ready. And the last day I saw her, I decided to do the River of Peace with her. And she never woke up and she passed away.
In the River of Peace.
No, in the next day.
Oh, in the next day. Okay,
Next day.
but yeah,
She
but it
did
almost sounds like she remained in the River of
She
Peace.
did. That is what I felt. That is exactly what I felt. So
Wow.
I feel that there's a place there, a really interesting place for you guys to, for me too, I hope. But anyway, I just really felt that, like, when I read that meditation and I sat there with her and I could just see she dove. She just dove deep.
Wow. That's incredible,
Yeah.
Michelle.
I know it's going to make me cry. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Yeah. So
That,
that's a gift. That is to be able to, oh my God, to be able to help somebody cross over in that place. And I guess I've been lucky because I've been able to hold spaces like that through grace with people. And I think it's a really, we're all getting older. My generation is like, we're all getting, that's one thing we're sure about. We're all marching towards the end here. More and more seeing it as an embrace of the unknown, seeing it as entering into the final mystery. But also what I found with my last client, I don't know if I call her a client, but this last experience was that, and this I had so much trouble reconciling because I didn't know her before she passed away, before I was with her. And she, because Reiki creates such a safe space, such a container, she went through her life. She told me things about her life. Did deep, deep work, like real healing work. And after she passed away, I saw all this Facebook stuff about her, and like I didn't even know that woman. I didn't know who, I couldn't, looked like such a big persona compared to this other, what she was showing me. Not that wasn't her, but I just was like, wow, I never knew that woman. I knew a totally different woman.
Isn't that interesting? It sounds
Yeah,
like she showed you her authentic self.
yeah, yeah. And I mean,
Mm.
how much gratitude do I have going for that? Like that, it's not work for everybody. I do think it is a calling. And sometimes I think you just fall into it, which is how I feel like I just fell into it. I don't know. I know that they offer trainings in doing it. I don't know how you train somebody in doing it. To me, training in something like Reiki helps you to do it.
Yes, I would think.
Yeah.
I really would. And what are some of the biggest misconceptions? And what are some of the biggest things that stood out to you in
I
work?
think, and this I would say from quite a few of the people that I've journeyed with, they want to still be part of the day-to-day life. It's, I know when my mom was dying, my brother would say to me, he'd come on the weekend, what did she talk about? She didn't, there was no big things. There was no philosophical things. It was just, let's listen to Jeopardy. What are you making for dinner? My experience of the people who are at the death's edge is they still want to be part of life in some capacity, right? So I think there's also this thing that we have to talk loud or that we have to say something. I rarely talk. I rarely talk. In fact, active listening, if you want to call it that, but just creating space for somebody else to talk. And I don't need to, I don't need to give them anything. I don't need to give them anything but an open heart and just, and love. And I think that we all feel like we have to fix it somehow, or we have to, I like say something that they won't be scared. And it's none of that. It's none of that at all. It's just about being absolutely present to what's going on for them. That is the only thing you have to do. And quiet. We've got so much noise everywhere all the time. Just that beautiful, peaceful, the holding of a hand. And this woman, I would, even when I couldn't really work on her, I always held her hand, right? That knowing that there is that human connection too is really important.
That's just beautiful. And sometimes I think one of the biggest gifts that we can give someone is for them to feel seen and heard. And
Absolutely.
it just sounds like you're, as you said, you called it creating the space. You're creating the space, you're in active listening, you are seeing them and you are hearing them. They feel seen, they feel
Yeah.
heard. They also feel your that pure presence.
Yeah. I think, and what I would say to in general, to all my Reiki students, and regardless of what you're doing, is you do your work outside of that situation. If something comes up for you, you don't look at it then. You don't sit there in the silence and think about things. You say, okay, thank you for bringing this to my awareness. When this session is over, I'll go home and I'll do my own work around it.
Mhm.
While I was working with this woman, I found out that I needed a breast biopsy.
Oh,
And my mother died of breast cancer and I'm high risk. So and it took almost 6 months for me to get the biopsy. This was almost like the whole time that I was working on her. I was waiting for my own biopsy. And
Wow.
because of the type of cancer that she had, by the end of it, her breast had been totally eaten by the cancer. And I was working directly there. So I was seeing what cancer can do untreated in that way. So I really had to work with myself that I couldn't bring my own fear, my own whatever was going on for me, that it when I was with her, it was about her and it wasn't about me. It was tough.
That
It
would have
was
been,
really tough. I'm glad
that
to
would have
say
been.
that I finally had the biopsy a week before I turned 65. It was clear. It was tough. And I had to do a lot of Reiki and I had a lot of Reiki done on me, but not on her time.
Right.
Not on her time.
Can I just say, as an aside, it shocks me that you are 65.
Yay, Reiki.
Yeah, yay,
Yay,
Reiki.
Reiki.
Absolutely. Yay, Reiki. I would think that doing this work would have to change you. I would think that it would have to change the way that you live, that it would give you an appreciation for things. What have you noticed there?
I really try not to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
I know that's cliche, but it's really true too. I also I've also just made clearer and clearer boundaries with what do I need? And if something's not in alignment with me, I used to probably be like, oh, it's okay. I'll go along because it's for some, but now it's no, this is what my one precious life. And if I'm living it
Mm.
authentically, if I'm living it to the best of what I know my soul needs, then the people around me will only benefit from that. Right. So I think that that really taught me. I am someone who sometimes wakes up in the middle of the night and I fear annihilation. It's like the idea of what happens to your. This doesn't mean that even though I'm very comfortable with other people dying, I'm comfortable with me dying. It's that is a work in progress for me. But I also cherish my relationships and I cultivate my relationships. If I, to the best of my ability, if you want me to be in your life and I want you to be in your life, I do my utmost to make sure that it's meaningful. And the other thing with that, I would say, is that if I realize I don't have space, then I'm trying to be honest about that. I really enjoy your company. I really love hanging out with you, but right now I really don't have the space for that. So rather than trying to dilute my experiences by having many experiences, I try to refine.
I like so much about what you said. And something that really stands out to me is my one precious life.
Mhm.
And yeah, it really is precious, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Even if we think there's another life, this life is what really is what we know.
This moment right
This
now
moment,
is
right?
all that we have. And
This moment, this breath.
this breath, that's so important.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who has Reiki and maybe there's someone in their life that is failing or getting ready to cross? What advice would you give them?
Give me a second here. I got to close my eyes and think.
Yeah.
That's weird. What came to me was be not afraid.
Mm.
Be not afraid, right? That you are being held. If you are asked to step into that place, you will be held.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's okay to think you're going to mess up, that what do I say? What do I do? How do I handle it? All of that is okay. But be grounded, be open, and remember it's not about you. It's so not about you when you are in that space. Afterwards, yes, but when you're in that space, and if you feel that you're there only for a little bit and then you have to leave because you can't hold that level of presence, that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. Even if it's just 5 minutes going in and holding their hand and just asking, is there something you need? Is there anything I can do to make you more comfortable?
Great advice, Michelle. If there was one practice, one thing people could do today that would help them live more fully, help them die more peacefully, what would it be?
Oh my God, Pam.
I know, sorry. Just only that.
That's a good question. And I look to myself, and I think if I was in that place and I knew that my end was near, I would just ask myself, remind myself to think of all the joy and all the love that I have had in my life. Don't think about what I haven't had in my life, what I've missed out or what I feel I haven't had. Think about all that I've had, all the richness that I've had. That it has been an amazing life.
And if somebody's not coming toward the end, then it sounds like you're saying cultivate that richness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Find the joy in the small things. Find the joy, like for me, with my dog and my husband and the flowers and the birds. And nature is our greatest gift that helps us to get outside of ourself and look at the sky. And even now in this very heightened place we are in the world, if you can just stand firm like a tree where you are and look up and just feel connected to where you are and just allow yourself to expand beyond the limits of our physical body and merge with that sky, with the nature around you. And yes, not being in a city helps to do that. So go out in nature and let nature be your balm, right? Because there's no judgment.
Yeah, I think I really love time in nature. I love time with animals and all of that. It's almost like you're stepping outside of time or
Yeah.
I don't know, but
And be,
it's the pure presence
yeah.
probably.
And be quiet,
Mm.
turn off the phone, turn off the devices, turn off, oh my God. I should not say this, but my husband gets up in the morning, radio is on, TikTok is on, all these things are on, and it's just shut it down and just shut it down. So there's so much demanding our attention, right? So give yourself 5 minutes a day with nothing demanding
Nothing.
your attention and just sit. Just sit.
I think that's great advice. The men in my life can be a little noisy too, and I really am one who appreciates the quiet. Like
Yeah.
it's nothing for me to drive, and I do like audiobooks or podcasts, but it's nothing for me to drive long distances with nothing on the radio.
Imagine that you're just with your own thoughts, and even those can be like too much too. But yeah, just get rid of the stimulus as much as possible, right?
I think
And
it's so important.
then you start seeing the world differently, and you're
Mm.
satisfied with simpler things, right?
What is it that Wayne Dyer always said? When you change the way you look at the world,
The world changes.
that what you're looking at changes, the world
Yeah,
that you're looking at changes or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Michelle, this has just been such a rich conversation. Would you like to bring us home in the energy today?
Okay,
Okay.
okay. I think what I was going to do might be a little bit different, but let's just do something and see what happens. Okay.
Okay. I like that.
All right, so let's just bring our hands together in Gasho Mudra. Let's open up our fingertips just by putting a little bit of pressure on each of our fingertips. Oh, and those of you who have symbols and who want to maybe do the chokore in the center of your palm, and then just tap it into that Marma point there. Oh, that feels so good. And now bring your knuckle to your third eye and just put a little bit of pressure there. And let's just invite the Reiki to guide us and to be present with us in whatever way we're needed to be present today. And then let's drop our palms to the center of our chest, to our heart chakra. And again, just a light depression with your knuckle. And just feel that expansion of your heart chakra. And take a deep breath in through your nose and a soft, long exhale through your mouth. And may the words that we have heard today reach us in the places where we need to be reached. And I'd just like to close with my metta meditation that we even use as a grace for table right now. May all beings be free of fear and harm. May we all have exactly what we need. May we be at peace with whatever comes our way. And may we rest gently in the softness of our own hearts. Thank you for listening today. Thank you, Pam, for having me.
Thank you so much, Michele. And I just want to say thank you to all of you listening for the beautiful light that you're spreading on the world. You're making a difference just by being who you are. Namaste. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you.